Hey, Bigger Pockets, it's Matt, and today we're going to talk about things that you need to talk about when you're meeting with new investors. And things are not how great your deals are, how great of a developer you are, an investor, or your track record, or anything like that. These are things that you need to understand from your investors. And remember, you want to seek to understand first, then to be understood. So the seeking to understand part is what you need to do up front. And I want to give you guys a couple of questions on how to really understand your investors and better serve them, and how to create more investors for yourself over the long term. So before we even get into that, investors could be people that own a percentage of a project with you, call that an equity investor, or they could be someone who loaned you money on a project, call that a private lender. Either way, it is someone with money that wants to do extra things with it, and that thing could be working with you on one of your projects. So again, I promise you, they're not thinking of that equity or debt or whatever it is. They're not thinking that way. So you don't want to lead in with asking them, well, do you want to loan me money or do you want to do equity? You need to ask certain questions to get to understand where they're coming from. So here's the angles that I want you guys to come from. Number one, you need to really understand just what their needs and goals are, right? So, well, how old are they? If they're in their latter years, maybe one of their needs may be preservation of income, of their wealth. If they're younger, maybe they're looking to do something a little more aggressive. Maybe they want to build up faster. Maybe they're willing to take a little more risk. But you want to understand that. Maybe even pose it that way. So just, what are your risk tolerances? What do you need from your real estate investments or from an alternative investment that you're doing with me? And just how quickly are you giving money that you might need back in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years? So understand, again, just all their needs around their money and around their investments they're doing with you. And at this point, you may want to talk about the returns that they're going to get. But I think that those things will come up on the returns that you're going to give you on their money. So I wouldn't bring that up unless they bring up what their need is that they need to get as a return. So that's number one. What are their needs and their goals that they happen to have for their investments? So the second thing is, and this is a big one, probably the biggest one, is what is the source of funds on the money they're providing you? So if they're providing with a self-directed IRA, it's very different than money that could be coming from a savings account, from an inheritance. You can also work with people that invest with you through a line of credit on their home. So it could be through some real estate equity or something like that they're investing alongside you. Those sources have very, very different ways that they can be applied, and best ways to optimize them in your business. Here's an example. If someone's lending to you using self-directed IRA money, far and away the best way for them to invest that is through a private loan. Here's why. Private loans have interest. You're going to 1099 them at the end of the year for the interest that you paid them on their money. If that's straight cash out of their pocket, then there's no tax benefit to them. The tax benefits show up in them owning real estate directly with you, which just makes sense to do out of cash. If they're investing with you through a private loan, it doesn't really make sense to do that through a self-directed IRA, which in itself is a tax-deferred vehicle. The reason they want to do private loans is A, because of the tax deferment, but also because private loans typically pay back in 6 months to a year, right? So they can parlay the returns that you pay them over and over and over again and create exponential wealth. Like, it starts like this and it goes way up like this. There's a rule out there that was just discovered by Einstein called the Rule of 72, and it talks about compounded interest, which is what you're giving them through private loans. Okay, compounded interest means this, and it means that you're taking the interest that you're gaining through an investment and you're reinvesting that interest on top into the investment as well. Meaning, somebody loans you $100,000. You pay it back 105 several months later. Then they can loan you 105. They loan you 105, you pay them back 112. They loan you 112, you pay them back 120. And it goes like this. The rule of 72 goes like this. If you have money that is compounded annually, you take the number 72, you divide it by that interest rate that you're getting on a compounded interest loan, and you divide those two numbers together, and the number that you get is how quickly that money will double. So if you're on a 10% interest loan, you divide 10 into 72, 7.2. Their money will double in 7.2 years through doing this in a self-directed IRA. If they're doing it through their own cash, it's not going to happen like that, because they're going to have to pay tax on the money as they go. Now, I get self-directed IRAs. You guys are all screaming at me saying, wait, you got to pay tax at the end. You do, but that's at the very, very end of the loan. It's all tax deferred up until now, so they can parlay it over and over and over and over again without having to pay tax every time that money comes in. So that's number two. That's why you want to understand sources of funds, because if you didn't know that, you wouldn't be able to explain to them the rule of 72 that I just did to you, and you wouldn't be able to show them why self-directed IRAs are very, very good private loans. Straight cash is very good at equity piece that they can do with you that has tax deferments and tax benefits and stuff like that. All right, moving on to the next one. This is the last one. What are their expectations that they have in working with you, in doing real estate with you? Are they expecting to get a weekly report? Are they expecting to get a 25% return in the first year? Are they expecting to, perhaps being able to have check writing authority and to be, day-to-day involved in which contractor you hire, or looking at tenants' applications and things like that? Those are all expectations you need to know about, I would think, right? All three of those would be unacceptable to most investors, but what if those are their expectations? You want to know, what are your expectations from your real estate investments? Perhaps they're not all going to be outlandish like those are, but they may be things that you should uncover. I actually just met with an investor about an hour ago, which is what inspired me to have this conversation, and she wanted to have more of a hands-on involvement in the real estate. She was not looking for passive investment. It wasn't looking for something to just do on the side. She wanted to be involved, and she had bought property before on her own. So not sure if we can work together. Maybe we can come up with something where she can have some input, some involvement, and feel like she's contributing and stuff like that, while we still are doing what we do best on the project. So I'm glad I asked that question. I'm glad I got that out. So again, other expectations could be things like their rate of return, how quickly you're going to give them the money back, what the overall terms of the loan are, who's paying, if there's going to be legal, who's paying for it, meaning like if, who's going to write the contracts and things like that. Those are all expectations you need to get clear on too. So again, what their needs and goals are, what their sources of funds are, and what their expectations are. Those three things, guys, you got to get clear on before you start pitching a deal, before you start talking about what you have that they can get themselves into, before you start talking about yourself at all, your track record, any of those things. Get to know those, and you will form a way better partnership with your investors, and long-term be able to get things better situated for yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Read leave some comments below. Let's get a conversation going and everything like that. And I sure appreciate you guys watching, and hope you have a great and profitable week. Thanks again. Bye-bye.